Alrighty, and we're gonna let this load here for a second. Get up on the Facebook group on Mile High Huddle. Let that load. Spinning wheel, and we are good to go. Good morning, everyone, and welcome into a Friday rendition, post day one, pre day two, the draft of Broncos for breakfast. Scott, how you doing today?
It seems a little subdued right now. It seems a little subdued. So, I have not had my coffee yet this morning. So we're going to use this as a chemistry experiment. I want you guys to watch and put up coffee emojis when you can tell when it starts kicking in. It's a little subdued this morning, but it was a late night, and there's a lot to talk about because, I think no matter who was taken, nobody is going to be all in on any pick that was taken.
Yeah.
There's going to be some disappointment. It's no matter what. So, but what excites me now is looking at who's available at the top of round two.
I'm excited to get into that.
Good. All of a sudden, I'm like, you know what? I'm excited again. Here we go.
Yep. Day two is my favorite. I mean, it's a bunch of names. These are a bunch of the guys that are going to end up being good starters across the league. And, day one, obviously 50-50. That's where you're looking for some true difference makers. But if you want to fill out your roster with some cost-controlled starters, day two is where the money's made. I mean, the Patriots built a dynasty trading out on day one and taking day two capital. Day two capital is, I would say, overall underrated. So I'm really excited for today, see what happens here. And let's get to Kyle Wielden here real quick here, dropping in from YouTube, the $10 super. Kyle, we appreciate you. Good morning to you as well, wherever you are. And Kyle says, morning therapy session. Peyton had better hope that Lock plays at an MVP level. Surtain turns into a lockdown corner and Fields busts. Well, Kyle, I think you're giving yourself there a very narrow reality. And I'm not cheering. Yeah, it's all we can hope. I'm not going to cheer against Fields, right? Like that's not for me. I'm also a big Drew Lock critic, but I'm not cheering against him. I'm hoping, like you, he turns into an MVP level play. But really, Surtain, it's got to be that guy. And the Broncos, of course, every single team, they say they got their number one guy on their board when they're picking that high. So I'll believe that after I talk to some more people, but that's not my understanding right now. But still, Surtain, really good cornerback. The Broncos follow the footsteps of Rick Spielman and the Vikings, saying, you know what, the cornerback room, let's invest in it again, because there's no such thing as too many corners. At some point, maybe you're going to test that, but Rick Spielman down to George Payton following that same philosophy. Surtain's a good player. Talk everybody off the ledge. Talk me off the ledge a little bit, Scott, because I think Surtain is a good player. I don't think he's the best scheme fit, but my God, is he a safe pick? And in the AFC West, you need cornerbacks. So I get it. It's not my favorite pick. It's not what I would have done. But, man, about as safe as it gets at a premium position.
Well, and when we did our first Broncos for breakfast, this was the first topic. Who you take it at this pick at 9? And this is who I took for the Broncos. I took Patrick Surtain. So, and why? And then you argued with me a little bit, and I don't mean to say that negatively.
No.
Your counterpoint on that was it's not necessarily a great scheme fit. And then, as I think about things later and go over these conversations in my head, I'm like, yeah, but schemes are a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a general manager, you're going for who you think is the best corner. And, there's, again, when we hear best player available, people throw that out there like it's a fact. Kyle Pitts was the best player available. Was he? Is that a fact? Maybe. So, if people say, Caleb Farley may have been the best, J.C. Horn was the best, well, Patrick Surtain was the best. In my opinion, for what I like out of my corners, which is he's not there is not another Deion Sanders, Champ Bailey, who can just turn and lock down a guy and be done with it. But he's a plus cover guy. He's a plus physical guy. So if you can take out those horizontal routes, if you can discourage the slants, the bubble screens, because you've got a guy out there on an island that's gonna shut his guy down from getting the yards after the catch, then that was my guy. And for me, that's what I want. I like a good cover two. I like a good press and release. Keep the guys in front of you, because that gives the lineman a little more time before turning them loose and run with them, because you're not allowed to cover them anymore anyway. They'll call you for something, but you can still press the hell out of them at 5 yards. And he is big, strong, and physical, and he is a good tackler, and he's going to be a good player for a long time. It might not be the guy you want, but again, like we said yesterday, you should be excited about seeing this guy on your football team.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nick Saban raves about his intelligence. I haven't heard him talk about a player with that intellect since Minka Fitzpatrick.
So, real quick, I left the door open today because my dog's
it.
in. And, I mentioned my giant cat. It didn't take long for him to come and find me. You can see he's pretty laid back. He looks like he's been mile high already today. That's
man.
That's his pretty well his standard look is, I'm baked. So
Well,
everybody, that's Ninja the cat. Ninja, thank you. We like to keep it personal here. It's all in the family. George, that's Ninja the cat. My daughter named him because she wants to be a ninja.
Oh, well, that's pretty awesome. Guys, we got to do a little matters of business here. You can find me at Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH. Also find Scott Kennedy on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. And guys, if you're enjoying the content here, not only are we obviously at Mile High Huddle, but find Scott's content. A lot of breakdowns there. He does this stuff covering the draft all the time over on his channel. Go check it out. Go subscribe at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Also, guys, this is Broncos for Breakfast. Want to let you know that again, if you are joining us today via YouTube, subscribe, like, and share. If you're joining us via Facebook, hit those thumbs up, hit that heart react, hit that wow react, whatever. Those interactions are good. And find us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. And all our content's there. I wrote an article last night at like midnight. More draft stuff going on today. We're going to be back covering the draft live. I think the draft kicks off at 5 p.m. Mountain Time today, so it'll be 4 p.m. my time. So day 2, like I said, it's my favorite. I'm really excited to get into it again, now that the dust has kind of settled from day 1. But let's get to David Kilgore here, coming in with the $4.99 Super. Guys, this is a trial run. Chad's right now trying to see if this is going to be a viable thing. So anybody who's enjoying the content and letting it show like David is here is greatly appreciated to keep the lights on for this show, because we're in that is this going to work? What's the chemistry? What's the demand here? So we're feeling the demand with 2 early supers today. So appreciate that. Any information on Aaron Rodgers? Do you guys think we will really get him? Have you heard anything about this Rodgers stuff? And thank you, David, very much for the super. We appreciate you.
Yeah, David. No, and I honestly, I watch what people do, not necessarily what they say. And when y'all ask me, beginning, where do you think? My first time on this pod, the Mile High Huddle pod, where do you think Deshaun Watson's going to play next year? This was before all that other stuff came out, and I said the same thing. Houston, he's going to play in Houston. Aaron Rodgers is going to be in Green Bay. I'll be very surprised if he's not. So it's just, it doesn't move. The exception to that rule is Tom Brady. I was like, I never thought he would leave, but he did. Then he goes and wins a Super Bowl. So it happens. But the odds are heavily stacked in the favor of the people that own his contract, Green Bay Packers. Going back real quick to Mr. Wielden on his first question, Kyle Wielden. Peyton had better hope that Lock plays at MVP level. Surtain turns into a lockdown corner and Fields is a bust. And I get that, because you're going to be graded when you pass on a guy like that. When you think about it, it's not just did you make a right pick, but what happened to the guy and I'm not going to say that it doesn't necessarily have to be Lock, but what's the quarterback play like in 3 years? When you're comparing, when you've got Denver Broncos, do you have adequate quarterback play? Or you've got, or Justin Fields, what's he doing? Because that's really the big question of how you're going to grade yourself on that pick. It's like, man, I could have had this guy. Or, whew, glad we didn't take this guy. So, I'm with you on this one. Looking at the number 4 pick, it's going to be because there's a lot of teams. Several teams passed on Justin Fields. When we talked about it, is if he didn't go at 3 or 4, he could go all the way down to 8 or 9, and he actually went a little bit farther than that. So yeah. I'm with you on that. You're going to have to take a look and see, what's Justin Fields doing in 3 years. But that doesn't necessarily matter as long as you've got good quarterback play, which is up in the air.
That's a great point. And this Bronco fans, unfortunately, would know this one all too well. The Broncos picking 5 overall in 2018. They end up taking Bradley Chubb. And Bradley Chubb's been really good, Pro Bowl player, ascending player. Maybe not an all-pro level edge rusher, but probably one of the top 15 edge rushers in football, and still young and ascending. A great player, great locker room guy. But the Broncos passed on Josh Allen, and Josh Allen looks like a top 5 quarterback. And the Broncos have had bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL the last few years. And guess what you get when you have bottom 5 quarterback? You're picking in the top 10, 3 of the last 5 seasons. So if the Broncos, even if I think the defense is too good this year, but defense is so fragile, right? Like it's so hard to get the 13 to 14 necessary guys to have a top 5 level defense. So while this year might be good, if the Broncos don't figure out the quarterback position, whether that be Drew Lock or something else, this team is going to regress, and you're going to see them picking in the top 10 again, probably in the next 3 seasons. It's an older defense. It's a defense that has a lot of impending holes. So everything comes back to quarterback. It's just the reality of the league, man. It's just the reality of the league. So yeah, let's break down some of these picks. We got day one. Obviously, the first real surprise was, I guess, everybody was kind of wrong there with David coming in with another superhero. Let's get this one here real quick. David,
and Franklin's still in there too.
Oh, so Franklin. Okay,
let's talking about Surtain as well. So I'm keeping an eye. One of us starts talking, we try and look in the camera. When we do that, we're going to miss some of those. So it's nice.
Yeah.
It becomes a little it can get a little hectic, but we're keeping an eye out for you. I promise. They show up, and again, that's what's going to pay the bills for us. So
I got you on cue, Franklin. You're next. But David Kilgore, I think there is something in the works since we did have Fields right there in our lap and we passed on him. I wouldn't think we would pass on a quarterback like that if you didn't have a plan already in place. Well, guys, I guess I'll just spill the beans. My understanding is the Broncos did have a deal in place with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, but the Packers did not work out the financial landscape for it. I believe if the Packers traded Rodgers, it would be $38 million dead cap this season, which is huge, obviously.
Well, yeah, that's about 17-18% of your total number.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've got 18% of your available capital going to somebody else.
100%. Yep. That's not what you want. And in the end, the Broncos and the Packers could not get it worked out. It really, I mean, everybody was saying this was about to happen and the Packers, I think, pulled out. But this is not just because this deal didn't happen yesterday does not mean it's not dead. Keep your eyes open for June 2nd when that dead cap hit can be pushed over 2 seasons. Makes it much more palatable to swallow. So, keep your eyes out for that. Also, I know the talk was Surtain was the Broncos' #1 guy. I've heard it from multiple people now that the Broncos had a deal in place for 6. If the right quarterback fell, that right quarterback went #3 overall. So here we are. It is what it is. But and also with that, the Broncos were going to, if that fell that way, the Broncos were going to trade off Drew Lock. You can even ask the biggest Drew Lock supporters who are covering the team, such as Ben Albright, that Broncos were ready to ship off, had deals in place if the board fell the right way to trade off Drew Lock. So here we are. Hope he turns it around, but that's just the reality of it. But thank you for 2 supers today, David. Man, coming in hot. We feel the love. We appreciate it. Feeling the love also. Franklin Peterson, we didn't forget you, Franklin. Forgive us, please. Love Surtain. Don't love the pick. I'm so old. I remember Fangio saying you need to score points to win, and I don't think cornerback is going to score too much more than our QBs. Love the show. Go Broncos. Well, Franklin, we love you. We appreciate you, and I think this is a good point. I mean, in today's NFL, you've listened to Nick Saban talk at a coaching clinic. He's like, listen, the game has changed. You have to be able to put up points. There's these teams putting up, or defenses being able to hold teams to 14 points a game, to 17 points a game. That era of football might have come and gone.
Mm-hmm. Well, and for me on that, it's not just the quarterback play, then it's the offensive line. It's the total package on offense. So, but it starts with the quarterback. Do you have a good quarterback? If no, then you're done. Then it's kind of like troubleshooting your refrigerator. Well, is it unplugged? If it's not plugged in, then nothing else is going to work. You gotta work your way down to the most logical spot. You got to be able to stop people though too. You got to be able to get the ball back into the hands of your offense. So it's still a balance. I think Franklin, you might enjoy watching the Falcons with me on Sundays before the Broncos come on, because they draft like all they want to do is score points. So maybe watch and again, to prove there's no one right way to do it, the Falcons were picking ahead of the Broncos.
100%. Yeah, that's although I would be pretty darn excited about Kyle Pitts. You said you were a video game guy. Man, playing with the Falcons in Madden is going to be a heck of a lot of fun. Video game numbers, right? That's what it's all about. We got Hezbuster coming in here from YouTube. Appreciate the $5 super so much. Jamie Newman goes to the Broncos day 3. Keeping my fingers crossed. Go Broncos. And that's a scratcher, right? The odds of that hitting are not great. But still, especially day 3, if you have the ability to do it and take a shot on a toolsy quarterback, I don't think that's a bad process. You have to go in knowing that there's probably a better chance this guy doesn't even make your squad the second year in the NFL than he does going on to become a franchise quarterback. But that doesn't mean it can't happen. It's just, don't bank on the anomaly. But if the anomaly happens, I'll accept it.
Yeah, day 3 is okay. anything before a 6 or a 7, and I'm going to say no on Jamie Newman. Like I said, when he was you don't want to just go on a too small a sample size. Maybe he had mono or something, but he looks so out of place at the Senior Bowl against guys that aren't necessarily high-level quarterbacks. Felipe Franks, Kellen Mond, mid-tier, mid-draft type of guys. And Jamie Newman looked like he didn't belong there. It was, I used this story the other day was what about some Jamie Newman highlights? I'm like, I found some, but most of Jamie Newman's plays are on the defensive backs highlights videos when they're intercepting him. So I'm not a big Jamie Newman fan. But again, these guys develop at different rates, and a 6th or 7th round is certainly a low risk. And if you hit on a quarterback, it's a high reward. I don't mind low risk, so it's worth a shot. So day 3, okay, round 3, no.
And we got Kevin Etheridge coming in here over on YouTube. Kevin, thank you for joining us this morning. Kevin says he loves the pick. It strengthens defense and it lets Lock develop before throwing another dart at the board. Broncos celery needs the potential in Lock. Broncos certainly see the potential in Lock. Maybe I don't know. Talking vegetables this morning. It's too early for
Broncos see the potential in Lock. Yep.
And fans simply impatient and frustrated. Well, picking top 10 3 of the past 5 years and not taking a swing at a quarterback when the Broncos quarterback play has been so bad, I think there is some validation for that frustration. Now, does that mean that the team should give up on Lock or the fan base should give up on Lock? No. I mean, I've made it known that I'm not a Lock believer per se, but I do think there is a path to success for him. He is a good athlete. He has arm talent. He had every excuse in the book last season, right? The best player injured, offensive line kind of struggled early in the season, people dropping passes, the pandemic, another year of a new offensive system, yada, 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 yada. But I also don't have too much sympathy for the excuses because you're going to have to deal with stuff in the NFL. That's the gig, especially at the quarterback position. You got to raise all boats. And when the chips are down, it's on you to get everybody around riled up and in their correct spot and overcome that adversity. And if anything, Lock wilted under that. So it's going to come out. We're going to see what happens. Can't predict the future. A lot's going to come down to, I'm not closing the book on a Aaron Rodgers yet. I also, from what I've gathered, people talking about Lock, I would put money that Teddy Bridgewater is the starting quarterback for this team come week 1, given what I've heard from some sources connected to the coaching staff. But we'll see. They're going to have a battle if these two are the actual quarterbacks. But keep the faith, man. If you think Lock is going to be the guy, we're just giving you our best opinions based on our previous experiences, but we can't tell the future. So if Lock turns it around, that's great news. I'm going to not lie to you though, and blow smoke up your rear end. Not this early in the morning, not after being up that late last night, to tell you that I think Lock is going to turn into this MVP caliber quarterback.
Well, and the thing is unless Aaron Rodgers comes in, he'll get a chance. He'll certainly get the chance. I want to go down a little bit. Coach Chris is talking about the pick. He says, our defense is going to be scary good. Our offense has improved. People back from injuries. The tools are certainly there for success. Go Broncos and love the show. Appreciate that. And, I don't know how much the game has changed, but, I'm still, being in SEC country, being in the South, I'm still a defense first guy for now. I was always all about defense, but, now you're not allowed to hit the quarterback. You're not allowed to cover. You're not allowed to tackle. Like, who the hell wants to play defense anymore? But, I can't get over the idea of the Baltimore Ravens winning, of Trent Dilfer winning a Super Bowl, of, some of the guys who just couldn't play quarterback. If your defense is good enough, it'll take you a long way. But, getting back to what we were talking about, earlier, I don't know that you can get a defense that good anymore unless you got two guys that can just terrorize the quarterback coming off the edge, which they are there. But yeah, a foundation. You get a defense that's going to keep you in every game. You've got a chance to win every game, and then you want to count on schemes and coaching and all that type of stuff. So again, you can't have enough corners. It might not have been the guy you wanted yourself, but Patrick Surtain is a hell of a football player, and that's the takeaway here. He is a good player, even if it's not the pick you wanted at that position.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got Steven coming in here saying Drew Lock is my quarterback. Steven, you live to fight another day. We appreciate you, man. That's great. I'm happy for you guys, honestly. Nothing would make me happier, honest to God, than Drew Lock becoming a great quarterback and Justin Fields being average. So we'll see what happens. And we got Gavin Hall coming in here with the very funny picture of George Payton rocking that old school. You're an outsider. should the Broncos bring back that old school D logo?
I love it. I love the old logos. And Gavin, thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. I did notice that. I wish there was a way that you could respond to people when they subscribe, where you could tell them thank you. I certainly remember that avatar. So I remember that because of that avatar. So thank you. I love the old logos. It really started when Jacksonville and Carolina came into the league, where everybody went with the same swoosh.
Yep.
You know, like a windblown logo, and they all look the same. The Patriots did that. The old Patriots logo with the, you know, the New England Patriot, you know, in a 3-point stance was cool. That was really cool. You know, the Broncos, the old D's. I love the old logos. I think some of the old school uniforms that are still around, like the Bears and the Colts, the Seahawks to a certain extent, is they haven't changed a whole lot. The Chargers, I love them, and there's a reason why the retro uniforms are so popular. Is because they're unique looking. You know, you watch some of these teams, you can't tell the damn difference who's who anymore until you look for the box and say, oh yeah, this is who's playing. So yes, I love the old Denver D with the Bronco going through. I do. I love it.
I'm hoping that when new ownership comes, they go back to it. I think there's a possibility, maybe a slightly different take on it, not just to go copy paste from what they did in the 70s and 80s, but I think there's a chance. And man, I really wish the Eagles would bring back that Kelly green with that eagle on there. I love that.
Well, and the LA Rams should always be royal blue and a bright and a canary yellow. Always. They're muting their colors together like that. That's not the Rams.
Yeah.
You know, I love the clash. The gold and navy. Hell, you get away from them, you can't even see what color they are anymore. Anyway. Let's move on. So yes, I like the old 80s colors. They had some character.
Yeah, absolutely. Good times. I'm hoping the Broncos go back to a little bit lighter blue as well. But that was my hopes and dreams when they were leaning more to an offensive team, the flashy colors. But we'll see here. So Surtain coming in, Rickard Bohr coming in with a question about Surtain. Surtain's chances for defensive rookie of the year. I'm going to take this one real quick. I think Surtain has a chance at it, but it's not very often you see defensive backs get that award. It's typically a tackle stat, so linebackers, or a sack accumulation award, such as edge rusher. So I think the chances are lower just because of that, and with the interceptions keeping to drop across the league, at least for non-Broncos, Surtain's chance to win the defensive rookie of the year, I would say, is slim. Also, his path to starting, it's not super clear. It's not like the Broncos didn't make any moves at cornerback this year. Like, Surtain was one of the most popular picks for the Broncos at 9 before free agency, before they brought in Kyle Fuller, before they brought in Ronald Darby. So what's the path, right? Like, I would expect Surtain to start, but right now there are 3 cornerbacks potentially ahead of him. Maybe he's going to be rotational. Obviously injuries can happen, but it's not a clear path for him day one, so to speak.
Well, and yes, you're right. You get a guy that can get a fluke 5 or 6 sacks, he's going to be rookie of the year. You know, it could be completely scheming. He came in untouched. Doesn't tell you the whole story. Michael said he just subscribed to my YouTube channel. I appreciate it. And I want to ask you a question. I want to, as I was watching this, what was your reaction, Nick, to, you know, them? You know, I got a feeling what it was, but I want to hear you say it. When the pick came across, you're sitting there at 9, and the commissioner says, cornerback Patrick Surtain, University of Alabama. What was your initial reaction to that pick?
My initial reaction was the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Rick Spielman down to George Payton. Rick Spielman's never seen a cornerback that he didn't want to take in the first round. And also my reaction was, I'm happy, and this is a counter to you, I'm happy they didn't end up taking Micah Parsons or Mac Jones at 9. Position of value, fortifying a strength, and making sure that they fill out a future need as well, because Bryce Callahan and Kyle Fuller are both gone after this year. Maybe even Bryce Callahan might be gone before the season now. They could save $8 million in dead cap moving on from him, and he's been injured every year he's been here, even though he was good last year. So that was my initial reaction.
And if we can, circling back to the Micah Parsons thing, if we can pick 3 teams where you've got an uber talented player with character issues, what 3 teams would those be that are going to choose them? And it might not be, one of my thoughts was the Raiders, but they don't pick good enough football players anymore. They just go off the combine numbers. So, there's 2 of them that do it. The Dallas Cowboys are one. The Bengals are the other. For me, the Bengals are the ones that if you're looking at a questionable character, a really talented player, Cincinnati's like, ooh, yeah, me,
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me that he went there. And the other pick that I was like, that is the most Baltimore Ravens pick of all time was Jason Owe. You want to know how Baltimore keeps picking 25th through 32nd and keeps having these freaks on defense? That's how. We keep letting them get to them. Jason Owe is going to be a monster in Baltimore. So be glad you're not in that division.
I won't lie to you. I was a little bummed to see those edge rushers fly off the board at the end of round 1 because I was hoping for one at 40 to see my guy. I know you were thinking, there's Nick's guy, Peyton Turner, going off the board to the New Orleans Saints there. Similar to Marcus Davenport, so that's kind of ironic. They obviously lost Trey Hendrickson, so it makes sense to go after that. I heard that the Saints were trying to move up to get Jalen Waddle, but didn't happen once Waddle went 6 off the board, so that is what it is. And then you saw also Joe Tryon go there with this last pick of the first round, which good for, Tampa Bay. They've been drafting excellent. Ever since that Robert Aguayo pick in the second round, Tampa Bay's been drafting really, really well. So, we'll see what happens here at day 2. We'll have to get to that here in a bit. Best available kind of strategies for the Broncos at 40 and just what to expect. David Kilgore coming in again. David, I'm really hoping that we can get Dylan Raduns, the offensive lineman from North Dakota State today. What do you guys think? What do you think about Dylan Raduns? He obviously was an opt-out guy this year. Well, not an opt-out guy because he was FCS, but didn't play this past season. Was down at the Senior Bowl. I'm sure you got to get some eyes on him. What are your thoughts of Dylan Raduns?
I'm grabbing his video so you can drop it in the chat for everybody.
Okay.
With Radens, so you can drop that in the chat. This is Dylan Radens. And he came in the Senior Bowl. Let me look up his measurements. It's 6'5" and 5'8", so let's just call that 6'6". I know you love the arm length, 33 and a quarter, so solid, with an 80-inch wingspan. So good. Not amazing, but really good. And I really liked him. So when we were talking about, and this is what just came in the chat was Dylan Radens. He played a lot of different positions, which we talk about the versatility of where you can use a guy. You don't necessarily want him high in the first at this round, but in the second, he's not a reach at all. He played a little bit of center, a little bit of guard, a little bit of tackle, and he was a standout in all of them. Watch his highlights. And the guys he's going against. He was really good. And there's several good non-FBS. I've gotten used to saying that now. I thought I'd always say D1 for my whole life, but there's several good. And now I'm not even sure if he's FBS. So, non-Power 5 is easier for me to say. There's several good non-Power 5, especially interior linemen in this draft that are going to give you value 2 through 4, 3, 4, 5 in those rounds. And Dylan's one of those guys. I like him. I think he's a guy that you could be very, very excited about having on day 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's get to this one. We don't just want to, we obviously see non-supers here as well. So we'll get to the supers. Don't worry. But let's get to Barack Nasi here with an interesting question. Could Surtain be the next Ramsey? What are your thoughts here? I don't see the athleticism with Surtain, the twitch, at least with that Ramsey possesses. But do you have a comp for Surtain? Because I've been kind of racking my brain.
I'm trying to think of one, and I'm like, you help me out here. I'm getting old and can't remember names. So, give me a 6'2" corner that is tough as nails at the point of attack and press and can turn and cover a guy. That was Rod Woodson before he moved to safety. Now Rod Woodson's one of the best to ever play the game. So that's a reach, but that's where I start thinking in old schools. Rod Woodson was the antithesis to Deion Sanders. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Deion was, he'd walk over to the board and say, forget the scheme, circle the number 1 receiver. I got this guy. Now y'all go ahead and figure out what you're going to do. Where Rod was, he was more of a physical football player, so, and that's where I say Surtain is. So, I don't have a comp on that right now. I don't think it's Ramsey. Ramsey to me is more Caleb Farley is closer, or J.C. Horn. He's not as physical, but he's, a little more flexible in the hips, turn and cover type of guy. So not necessarily Ramsey, but that like I said, if you're a press and release type, then that's who you want to go on that.
And Fangio historically has not used as much press, but when he has had cornerbacks who their best scheme fit was press, He's used it. Prince Umukamara, they kind of used one off coverage and one press guy with that fantastic 2018 Bears defense. So I'm going to be really interested to see what they do with Surtain. Also, Surtain, his freshman year, played that star position for Alabama as a nickel. So maybe there's even like some safety work as well. I think Surtain is smart enough, can do a lot of different things where I could see him feasibly playing any of the defensive back positions for the Broncos. He's going to get the most value at boundary corner because that's just the hardest position to find. But I think you could put him anywhere, especially with that body type. We got Wolf Sky coming in here, 6'2", 210 pounds. Boundary slot again, especially against tight ends in this division. Maybe you people are screaming for linebackers to cover the tight ends in this division. Maybe Surtain is the guy. I mean, that's seriously possible.
Big safeties. It's big. Yeah. I've said Hamza Nasruddin for that blanket the tight end position all spring. That and he could be a linebacker type, but for me, I want a long safety. I want Hamza Nasruddin. If I've got two tight ends in my division that I got to face 4 times a year that are just terrorizing me, I'm going to go get a 6'3" safety and in nickel coverage. That's where we're going.
Yeah, absolutely. We had Jake Gerard coming in here with the 199 super over on YouTube. Thank you very much, Jake. Good morning to you. Hopefully you have your coffee ready. Tevin Jenkins or JOK Cox or safety in the third. So this is a good kickoff here for your best remaining players. Scott, are you eyeing anybody early? Who are you expecting to fly off the board to start day 2? And who are your guys that you're targeting this?
And this one, it starts becoming needs. It's because the margin for best available player doesn't exist really anymore. Yeah. Unless there's one of those freak guys that have fallen down because of an injury. But if you're looking at interior linemen, I like Landon Dickerson. I know you like Tevin Jenkins right there, who could play in a different ways. If you're looking at linebacker, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is right there. That's a great pick. He might be the best football player left on the board, period. If you need to beef up your defensive line, Christian Barmore is still right there. So, there's several different ways to go depending on where you want to go. So you said the question was the safety out of TCU, help me out here, Trevor Moehrig,
yes,
or Kellen Mond in the second. That's an easy pick for me. That's an easy pick for me. I'm going the safety. Kellen Mond isn't a second rounder to me. You've already got a couple second round talents on your roster for a quarterback. Now let's go get a guy that was graded in the first round at safety.
Yeah, and we got guys. I know the Broncos just took a cornerback, but this is George Payton coming from the Viking school of thought in this AFC West. I would be 0% surprised if the Broncos ended up taking safety here, round 2, just to really just all out for the secondary, the back to front kind of approach with building the defense long term. Richie Grant, if he's there at pick 40, I'm Surtain caught me off guard. You don't think so? You don't think so?
No, I heard Richie in my head and had Richie LeCount, and I was like, that's too soon for him. Richie Grant, yes, I would say, because just watching who's above you, because that's what you got to start paying attention to as well. And I know the Falcons better than anybody else. They have to come out of this with a starting safety. Have to. They have to. And Trevor Moehrig is still on the board. Yeah. So if a first round safety falls to the 38th pick or wherever they're 36, right in there, you got to take that guy, right? I mean, you have to have a starting safety. You got no money for free agent. You got one safety on your roster.
Yeah.
So I don't think he falls past Atlanta. So who might? One more guy I really like is Carlos Basham, the hybrid defensive end interior guy, can play a little both depending on down and distance scheme at the time. And he played at 280 at the Senior Bowl, and then he was a 4'6" guy at 274 pounds at his pro day. Yeah. So really like him a lot. And that's why I said, no matter how disappointed you are in the pick, and I was disappointed in the pick at 4. And I know the Denver Broncos are disappointed in the pick at 9, not with Surtain, but disappointed that they didn't get everybody. Like I said, everybody's going to be disappointed no matter who was picked. There's going to be somebody who's disappointed. Yep. But now you start looking, it's like, okay, we could come out of this with Surtain and Landon Dickerson out of Alabama. You mean there's a chance we could get Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and Patrick Surtain? Now it's starting to look pretty good. It's starting to look really good.
Yep, and that's what I always say. People always get upset, first round mocks, blah, 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 talking about first round picks. The draft is more than one round long. And also, I am very much a proponent of, if you're looking at your team to fill out needs in the draft, you already are in a bad spot, because a lot of these guys we saw last year, Jeffrey Okuda, right? Number 3 overall pick. He was not good. And you just don't want to put yourself in a position where your season is made or broken based on your rookies, because rookies are investments. It's not about their 2021 or their immediate year impact. It's about 3 years down the line. Jason like from Tampa Bay, they make their board specifically on what is this guy going to be after 2 years in the league, because the first 2 years, they're just getting their feet wet. They don't really, if they bring anything, great. Tristan Wirfs, hello, all pro. Should have been all pro. But that's the name of the game for the draft. You need to be thinking long-term. So we got Jacob Doan coming in here thinking long-term with us, trying to keep the lights on for building the Broncos. Why do people think Lock will be something? Because he ran around and played like Buzz Lightyear after one good half? He's just not good. Well, Jacob, careful, man. It's Lock has had some very good highs, right? You see the arm talent. He seems like a fun guy. He's definitely relatable. He says everything right. I think he's genuine, and he's a good athlete. And it's much more fun to watch Lock run around there and play than Joe Flacco, Trevor Siemian, Case Keenum, etc. Because you see the tools, you see the flashes. If you put together Drew Lock's highlight tape, you're going to think, wow, this guy could make every throw. But there's a lot of lowlights as well. So I think there is hope for Jacob Doan, or there is hope for you, Jacob. No, there's hope for Drew Lock becoming a good quarterback. I would say, given the data, the odds are stacked against him, but he's overcome a lot to even to get to this point in his life. So who's to say he can't take another step? And again, it's hard to really pull from last season's data, given how many things went against him. So we're fixing to find out. I'm hoping for the best. I know that some people in the comments are saying I'm too hard on Drew Lock. Well, I'm not grading him with a curve, folks. It's the AFC West, and you have to go up against Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and Derek Carr, who I think is a borderline top 10 quarterback as well. So sorry, that's just the reality. If you got to have a good quarterback if you're going to contend in this division.
Yep. When you start going on Drew Lock, I start doing a little research on my next question.
Oh, man. Yep. So that's we'll see what happens here with that. But maybe we trade Callahan, saying Rickard Bohr. That's interesting. Definitely possible. Steven, big, huge fan of the Drew Lock. I love it, man. I love it. If you guys think Drew Lock is going to be great, drop it in the chat. I want to see these Drew Lock guys out here. You guys should be very happy today. There was a lot of talk. There was wind swirling. The Broncos could have gone different ways, but lives to fight another day for Denver. So we will see. Malcolm Brown coming in here. Which positions will get picked the most and least on day 2? This is a good question. And also hashtag Nick Sweater Fun. Let's bring it back. God, that was a fun one during Christmas time. I'm bringing it out for Chad said we had to wear collared shirts for the actually covering the draft, which is a bum because I wanted to wear this guy again tonight. But maybe that's good because
sweaters count. I think sweaters count as business casual for collars. I think that's a good substitution.
Gotta talk to Chad. But Malcolm, thank you so much for the super. Day 2, I'm gonna guess you're gonna see a good run on safeties and linebackers. I think there's a good depth at those positions, and also interior offensive line. So those are the positions that I'm thinking are gonna fly off the board day 2.
Well, and I think it's funny because I was thinking the defensive linemen have to start going eventually. Yeah. The defensive tackles. There's got to be times where you start. It's like, listen, we need a big body in here. Let's get one in. So I don't think a single defensive tackle was taken in the first round. So I think you have to start seeing some of the big boys come off the board too.
Yeah, absolutely. Christian Barmore still there. Pretty interesting. He is still there. So we'll see. We got Matt Martinez coming in here. I think maybe you touched on this one earlier.
I did. But I hit it again. For me, this is easy. Moreg's a guy for me. Moreg Woodward. I think he's hyphenated now. But he's got a first round grade and he's still there. But he was a guy I was saying that I don't think gets past 36, just because the Falcons have one starter at safety. They lost 3 starters at safety in free agency. They brought in 1, and then they brought in 2 guys that are career backups. So they've got to come out of this with a safety. And if he's still there at 36, that logically needs to be the pick. But for me, if it's one of those 2, that's an easy pick. Kellen Mond isn't a second round guy for me, period.
Yeah. No, it really tends to be where you see it year after year. If the quarterbacks don't go round 1, they're probably not going day 2. A lot of times you'll see quarterbacks fly off the board round 4. That's where a lot of teams are like, okay, we're going to take a shot. So I'm guessing that's what you're going to see this year as well, just based on previous drafts. That's the trend. And sometimes just for everybody, I don't want to get too far down in the chat without with skipping supers, because sometimes the supers disappear then. Up the comments. So if you guys are a bit ahead of me, it's because I am making sure that anybody who got a super in here, we're not going to miss you. So Coach Chris coming in here with a $5 super on YouTube. Broncos trade their first round picks in 2022 and 2023, an injured Chubb and Callahan to the Packers for Rodgers, and a case of cheese. Well, Chris, what kind of cheese? That makes or breaks the deal. We talking Munster? We talking some Gouda? We talking some stinky goat cheese? I mean, spread hard. I mean, really, it matters. Like we gotta go here. Just a sidebar here. My wife, big cheese fan. Our cat's name is Queso. Adorable name. I know. Thanks, guys. But they made a prank University of Iowa Cheese Club, and trolled their friend for years about it, trying to get them to join the cheese club. They couldn't pass the test. They came up with BS tests, and the friend couldn't get it. So I'm in for the cheese. I like this overall until you get the Chubb. And I know you said an injured Chubb, but if you are bringing in Aaron Rodgers, you are saying that we are competing today. Am I giving up I'm not going to mince words here, my most valuable defensive player? No, I would rather give up future picks or trade from the wide receiver room where you have a surplus than give up Chubb, because you are bringing in Aaron Rodgers. You're saying we are competing today, and I'm not going to move away from my most valuable defensive piece in that trade. Now, if push came to shove and that was the only way I could get Rodgers, maybe, but I think Rodgers is really making a power play. I think that he has the leverage here. 37 years old. He might even get to the point where he's saying, if you don't trade me, I'm done. I'm walking away. I'm going to go hang out with my fiance, Shailene Woodley, in Boulder, and do the whole eco thing out there in Colorado and live my life. So we'll see. But it really sounds like this is coming to a divorce one way or another. So
see if he retired, the Packers wouldn't mind that. I mean, that gets him off the books, right? If he retires, if he says I retire, doesn't that change the whole salary cap information, the whole salary cap table? So
I would rather have the firsts, though. I mean, I don't want him just.
But I'm just saying for Rodgers, Rodgers, if he wants to stick it to him, he just tank.
Yeah, I mean,
retiring would do them a favor, and that would be doing them a favor, and I don't think that's what he's going for here. I don't. He's too good of a professional to do something like that, though. So yeah. If Aaron Rodgers is in the league, he's going to give it his best. I mean, this is one of the best quarterbacks of all time, and he's. I would be more excited about getting Aaron Rodgers than I would have been about getting Tom Brady.
Yeah,
I think he can do more. I don't want to say he's a better quarterback, but
he's a more toolsy quarterback.
Yeah,
right? Like better arm talent, more movement.
If you switch Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers over the last 15 years, who's got more rings?
This was always the argument for Peyton Manning and Tom Brady as well. I'm sorry, I'm a Peyton Manning truther, I check in. I try to be as unbiased as possible when it comes to Manning. Check the biases at the door. That's my dude. Absolutely love him. And Jensen Jr. actually coming in with a comp that I really like for Patrick Surtain. Xavier Rhodes, lengthy, maybe a little better impressed, but as the year went on, as his career went on, actually did really good in off coverage last season. I really like this comp for him. Xavier Rhodes is a good one. The length, maybe not the most twitchy guy, ball skill. I'm going to steal this one, Jensen. I'm just straight up. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to steal this one. So thank you very much. Matt Martinez coming in here with the $1 super chat here over on YouTube. We appreciate, feeling the love today, guys. We really do appreciate it. And coming in again, he had this one earlier, Matt Martinez asking for Kellen Mond and Trevin Morg. Quick question about that. Are the Falcons running a more cover 1, cover 3 scheme with a single high, or are they doing the 2 deep safeties?
It's Dean Peace. So, I always think of him as using the defensive lineman to clog space. But when you've got Grady Jarrett, that's not what he does. He's not a space eater. So
yeah.
I think he's going to have to, with the limited amount of players he has on defense, the strength of that team is really in the linebacking core. So he's going to have to free up the linebackers, and he's going to have to use them to get pressure on the quarterback. So it might be a 3-4, or he might be blitzing a lot. What I just can't handle watching anymore is a double-digit lead in a 4-man rush with not being able to get any pressure on there, and just watching guys walk on down the field, and then in the fourth quarter, run into the line of scrimmage, it's 3rd and 11, sack, holding, whatever, and they blow the lead. It's just, that's got to change. So, and that changes with the offensive line and a better defense.
100%. And Coach Chris coming in with a $10 super. Again, we thank you so much, Coach Chris. Hopefully you'll stick around. We'll see you again next week. We'll see you tonight maybe. I love adding fuel to the fire. People are going nuts about the Surtain pick. Lock in 21, Super Bowl champion, MVP, and our defense shatters all records with Surtain leading the group. Man, I want what he's having. What's in your coffee today? That's a high bar, but if this Broncos team, I think this is going to be the most enjoyable Broncos team we've seen since that Super Bowl run. The defense is going to be good. They have young emerging weapons. The offensive line is bringing everybody back, and Drew Lock is not going to be, I'd say this hoping, there's a little hope in this one, but Drew Lock's not going to be a bottom 5 quarterback next year. This roster is set to be really competitive. Pro Football Focus had them, despite ranking them as a bottom 3 quarterback position, as the 6th best roster in football last year. And now you fortified the cornerback position even more. The position, cornerback and offensive line, those are positions where in a 17-game season, if you get to your depth and your depth is not good enough, everything's going to break. That'll be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Well, now you've made that, especially the Broncos cornerbacks with Darby and Callahan having injury history, both guys not finishing seasons. I think Darby was the first time ever that happening last year. So now that's not going to happen for the defensive backs, for the defense in general. So this team is going to be very enjoyable to watch. Maybe they're not going to be putting up 30 points a game, but with Vic Fangio, with this defense, the way it's built right now, I mean, smash mouth football, baby. This is a defensive first team. That's the identity. And they're going to hang in games because of that, as long as the injury bug doesn't bite them again.
And watching the chat go through, there's a little more animosity than usual amongst Broncos fans. You can tell when the offseason's in, when everybody starts turning on each other. You need a common enemy, and then once the game starts, so it gets a little salty in the summer months.
Yeah, and Coach Chris,
remember, everybody here, you're on the same side. Try and remember that. You don't have to agree, but try and remember that. Let's be respectful of everybody. So, and Ethan says. He works nights, and we'll get back to him. Sorry, but Ethan had a super chat. He said, "I work nights, so I rarely get to see a pod, but learned about Broncos for breakfast the other day. Love it. You guys rock. Please keep the show going." Well, thank you. It certainly helps. This certainly helps. I think we got a chance to keep this going into next week. I plan to. Nick?
Oh yeah, I'm in. Sign me up, baby. Put it in pen. Let's get that contract going. But thank you very much for joining us, Ethan. I think the schedule might change a little bit, like the days or the times. We might even go half an hour earlier to accommodate. Scott's on Eastern time, so as long as I'm willing to wake up that on my Pacific time, then that's fine. But we're gonna pivot after the draft. But if you guys are enjoying it, and I'm feeling the love today, and somebody's having some fruity pebbles with Coke over here, Gavin. Gavin always kills me because he's a very good commenter. I'm enjoying I'm an absurdist humor fan. Like if something catches me off guard, so I like dark stuff, but also stuff that's just weird. If you catch me off guard, I'm gonna laugh. So what was the Coach Chris here? If Trent Dilfer can win a Super Bowl, Lock can too. Haters gonna hate. Broncos country, baby. Hell yeah. Well, Coach, again, I'll have what you're having. I am really, if Drew Lock is the guy and he pops off this year, God bless. That's best case scenario, and I think there is a pathway where that happens.
That's quite a legacy that Trent Dilfer has, isn't it? That's quite a legacy to say. Well, if he can do it, if he can do it, I've said that I don't want to talk soccer, but I see a guy out there that I really don't like that plays for Arsenal that says, well, he inspires me. If that guy can be a pro footballer, I can still do it at 48 years old, for God's sakes. And that's how it's like, is that really your legacy? Is Trent, it's like, this is the worst quarterback to ever win, or is it Brad Johnson with Tampa? One of those guys. It's, well, see, you don't have to have a quarterback. Well, again, y'all have heard me say it before, with a small enough sample size, I'll prove any point you want.
Yeah, that's a great point. And my philosophy on quarterback and just football in general, and you see it with the Broncos, once you get in the playoffs, it can be a real crap shoot, right? Like anything can happen in a 1-game sample size. So what's your best chance to win a Super Bowl? It's to knock on the door year after year. So if you have a quarterback that gives you 5-10-year window, then you can reshuffle that deck around them year after year, where if it doesn't fall your way because of injuries, that season's not out the window. And that 2015 Broncos team, a lot of people, I think, are influenced by that. But guys, the ball bounced the right way for Denver many times. I think if you line up that 2012 Broncos team against the 2015 team, that 2012 team is going to win 7 out of 10 times. Like that 2015 defense was great, but they had no serious injuries.
That's what I was going to say, Nick. And then the next year you get 6 injuries.
Yes.
It's
just how it goes.
Yes. And everybody gets hurt the year after.
Yep. And that year, the ball bounced the right way for Denver. Obviously, they won a few games that could have gone either way. That game where Jamal Charles fumbled that ball week 2 and the Broncos scooped it up and scored to win the game. Okay. The Broncos get the number 1 seed then. The game where they beat Cincinnati with Brock Osweiler, or the Patriots with Brock Osweiler, and even every single playoff game, right? The situations of those games meant that Denver scored early, then they could dictate with the defense. They never fell behind and had to lean on that bad offense. Let's just call it what it is. So sometimes that's how it goes, man. Like luck is a big factor of it. You just have to put yourself in a position to take advantage of that luck when it does come your way.
And I want to throw this back out there to the viewers out there, the listeners, because like I said, I see a lot of animosity out there on who we should have taken, that type of thing. And there's a lot of, well, this season's doomed. Well, who would you have taken? You know, if it wasn't Surtain, who at number 9 was going to help this team win more than Surtain, significantly more than Surtain? Because I got news for you, wasn't a quarterback.
Yeah,
a rookie quarterback wasn't going to do it. That's a move to build for 2023. So you know, if that's your bar in there of this team is now doomed, then who would you have taken? Who would you have taken to replace them in order to help the team right away?
Oh man, I need to name my dog Nacho. We're gonna stick with the outdoor names with the dog. The dog's name is Summit. And I think the next one might be Ranger or something like that. But Queso Cat, I think our next cat is going to be Taco Cat because it's a palindrome, and that's way too fun. Forward and backwards, Taco Cat is Taco Cat. Matt Martin is coming in with a $5 super. Matt's been showing us the love today. We appreciate it, Matt, coming in time and time again. Really just helping keep the lights on in here. We appreciate. And we got Sykes coming in here. Stick around, boys. Love the show. Well, man, we're really feeling the love today, guys. We appreciate it.
Yep, and, Sykes has been there a lot, and that's a big supporter, and that's a vote for keeping us going. So
yes,
I think we've tipped the scales, Nick. You're gonna have to put up with me a little bit longer.
Hey, that's okay. That's totally fine. We can talk a little bit more European football in the years to come. But we got Richie Rich coming in here. Nick, please go change your sweater. Laundry is a good thing. Well, guess what? I'm wearing it again. I'm actually going to try to wear it tonight. We'll see what Chad says. I'll pull it off if I have to, but I'm going to see if he will let me get away with it. So we need to talk about Nick. Number 3 is our quarterback. Love you, man. And guys, I can't predict the future. None of us can. So if you have great faith in Lock, I'm hopeful. I don't have faith. I'm not really a faith. Well, I'm not a man of faith in general. I wasn't going to say I'm not faithful. I am faithful. Wife, if you're listening, I am faithful. But for the quarterback position, we'll see. And guys, we don't want to bog down Scott too much with all the quarterback stuff because he's dealing with Matt Ryan, right? Like he's got it made. If we could put the Falcons offense with the Broncos defense, we're talking Super Bowls here. But alas, here we are. So we should probably talk.
Here's the comparison between the two. Is, and someone said it was a stupid question because he named 2 players. One of them was a quarterback. Well, I'll say again, a quarterback doesn't help you next year. For a rookie quarterback doesn't improve your team dramatically next year. You're not making a Super Bowl run because you drafted a quarterback in this class. For me, drafting a quarterback is a little bit like waving the white flag. And if the Atlanta Falcons, I'm okay with that. I think they missed their window. Their quarterback's 36. Julio Jones is 32 years old. They've got no defense. Their offensive line sucks. The running back position, they just got on a song from Carolina, who's been a career backup. And they missed their window. They missed it. It's done. So getting a quarterback, to me, signals like you're acknowledging that. You're acknowledging that. But if you're the Broncos, you guys aren't done. The Broncos aren't done. So we're going to draft because we do think we have a shot at improving this team with the injuries coming back and going right away. Now, does that mean you're happy with your quarterback situation? No, and I get that. I do. I get that. But drafting a quarterback is for the future, not for the present. And the Broncos are living in the present. So my Falcons fans have deluded themselves into thinking that they still have a shot. I'm willing to wave the white flag and either trade down and accumulate a bunch of picks to build for the future or get my quarterback of the future, not necessarily get a third receiver when you can't run, block, or tackle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Isaac Drake saying, Nick, not a man of faith, SMH. Well, if you want to have that dichotomy, you should come and join us Tuesday nights for Building the Broncos. Carl is a pastor. So we have, man, you guys should be there for some of the deep philosophical conversations that we have. It was Carl's birthday, too. If you guys can go shout out Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler MHH. And I wish him a happy belated birthday. He was busy yesterday. Didn't really get to enjoy it with the family because he was here hanging out with us. But give Carl a shout out, man. He is as genuine and as nice of a guy as you can find out there. Matt Martinez coming in again. God, Matt, what's going on? What's in the coffee? Do you guys think we should trade up for Trevon Moehrig, Steve Atwater, or Dennis Smith 2.0? Personally, Matt, I'm probably not trading. There's not a guy that's fallen that I am so head over heels with that I'm willing to give up like the fourth round pick and pick 40 to move up 3 to 5 slots. And Peyton said yesterday, the Broncos are picking 8th today. They have the 8th pick, day 2. And they said they have 8 guys that they really like. Well, you do the math. To me, that says that the Broncos are going to sit there and they're going to be happy with whoever falls to 40. So I think that trading up for Trevon Moehrig, honestly, I think Moehrig, he's a great safety. I think Richie Grant might be the better scheme fit, right? He can actually come down and play slot. He's a better tackler. I think Moehrig is a better single high option at safety. And the Broncos don't use much single high. They're looking for split field safety. So I think Moehrig, I would not trade up. I'd sit there and leverage that. And there's enough guys there where I don't have to come away. I'm not going to be like the teams that are overconfident in their evaluation about a guy. I'd rather have those more picks, more throws, knowing that picks, especially day 2, I mean, you start to lower and lower your chance of getting a hit. I don't want to give up those dart throws. And I don't think Peyton does either.
Well, and full disclosure here, I haven't watched Trevon as much as Richie Grant. So I'm leaning on other people's evaluations on him, and I've seen him as high as 15 overall.
Yeah.
And the low part I've seen him at is like 32. I know I would be comfortable with Richie Grant going at the top of the second round. I know that. He's an incredibly versatile player, makes tackles, can cover, ball instincts. He's a safety. He's what you're looking for in a safety. In talking about the linebacker needs, because I think that's where the answers, some of the questions are coming in. The answers like, well, who would have been a better pick to help your team right away at linebacker? I get that one too. I see wrong. If you can live with Micah Parsons, absolutely. If Micah Parsons is taken at 9 and you just plug him in a Madden football game like we're talking and forget everything else, he's a beast. I thought he was the best defensive player in this class. Now he's going to go to the Cowboys where they can control the media and law enforcement a little better than maybe you can in Denver.
Hey, man, I got to say.
I get that one. I would agree with that one for sure. Rashawn Slater, maybe an offensive tackle, or, you can move to the inside line. I get that one too. But just don't tell me quarterback. I can getting you want to get a quarterback, but a quarterback wasn't going to help you this year. Not in the draft. So, and that's my thoughts on that one.
Yeah, no, good comment there. And we got RG2729 coming in here, cousin of R2D2, I believe, or whatever the ball one is in the new episode.
RG2729 is pissed. I've been watching his comments. He's pissed.
RG, it's gonna be okay, man. It's not to spread too much light, but
I hate to assume he or she.
Yeah, or she. Yes, pissed. You're right. They, them. Nick, when will we have another great quarterback class? I don't see it in the near future. Well, 2022 looks like it's going to be a deep class, so there could be a few guys that jump out. There is some talent. Spencer Rattler has fun arm talent, although you watch that QB1 documentary, he does not seem to be the best friend or the nicest, most enjoyable person to cheer for, but that's sometimes the case. That's some guys can be like that. John Elway wasn't always considered the nicest guy. So if they're good, they're good. Sam Howell next year. Malik Willis has got to work on some accuracy, but he's interesting. Corral from Ole Miss is interesting. Keaton Slovis. He got injured to end 2 seasons ago. He did not look as good last year. But I think next year, honestly, you're pivoting to more of the veteran options at quarterback for the Broncos. I think maybe Russell Wilson changes his tune and he sees the offensive weapons that the Broncos have and Mike Munchak and saying, you know what? Denver would be pretty nice. The Rockies drafted me. Why not go to Denver? He hasn't been on their list, but maybe that would change. Matt Ryan, another one. I'm calling that out there. If Jared Goff and Carson Wentz can get traded with those dead cap hits and the Falcons, Matt Ryan's kind of ho-hum this year, gets injured, I don't see any reason why the Falcons wouldn't take a first-round pick, plus maybe a little more, to move Matt Ryan towards the end of his career. Maybe. And that was more of a conversation with if they were going to take a quarterback at 4, but it's possible. And then you also have Kirk Cousins, who, another Vikings connection there for the Denver, Minnesota Vikings Broncos. So we'll see. But 2023, I think 2023 looks like it's going to be a good quarterback class. You got DJ Ungulele and Bryce Young, Clemson and Ohio State again, or Clemson and Alabama again. La-di-da. Those teams are finally looking to pass. And guess what? Great quarterbacks are finally starting to go there, starting to develop them. But DJ Ongulele, oh my God, what a phenomenal talent, man. The arm talent, the size. Clemson, number 1 pick last 3 years there with Trevor Lawrence, plugging in another number 1 overall pick in DJ Ongulele.
So I haven't watched these guys as much as Nick. I watched them in high school a little bit more. So I haven't watched them in college as much. And so Nick's ahead of me, but he won't be. But I don't see anybody that's better than Justin Fields coming up. So you missed your chance for the next two windows. You mentioned Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan could be traded in 2022. I think that's a possibility. It wasn't a possibility this year just because of a $40 million cap hit. But that is it's definitely a possibility. And Matt Ryan's still a plus quarterback. He's a plus quarterback in this league.
Yep. If you have the offensive line, Matt Ryan can function. You do need the offensive line, though. And I think the Broncos with Mike Munchak returning everybody this year, we'll see what happens day 2. Maybe they make another investment on the offensive line. They're in a pretty good spot there. We got David Waller saying, Nick, why are you wearing a sweater? Because it's draft miss. Also, it's really cold in my basement. But Merry Draft Miss, everybody. Maybe you didn't get the gift you want. Maybe you got that thing of tube socks. But there are more gifts on the way. So don't get too upset about the first one because the other ones can be fun and maybe it's something else you wanted. Speaking of getting ready for day 2, Tyler Randall. Good morning to you, Tyler. Ready for day 2, Broncos for breakfast. Thank you so much, Tyler. You are a friend of the show. We really appreciate you. You are in here, not just with Broncos for breakfast, but all the other shows as well. So hopefully we'll see you tonight as well. You guys can come follow us and hang out with us day 2. Drop comments, and we're going to have a good time again. We got Nick Christensen coming in here. What would you think of grabbing Dylan Moses in the 2nd or 3rd? I think he would upgrade either linebacker spot and bring speed to our linebacker core. Well, Nick, Scott probably has some information here too, but from my understanding is that Dylan Moses' knee is not in a good spot. There are questions that he will even finish his rookie contract. To that point, he was playing in severe pain as the season ended last year, and he did not look the same as he did before that injury. I don't know, man. It might be a sad story where this guy was going to be a top 15, 20 pick, and then an injury happens, and sometimes that's football. But I think Dylan Moses is going to go day 3. I think the knee was severely flagged, and teams are going to be scared.
And that's the question on him. When he's 100%, he's a first-round guy, without a doubt. He's just one hell of a football player. But if his knee's done, then he's done. Unfortunately, I don't know if you can wait on him. Was it Jalen Smith coming out of Notre Dame? I think that the Cowboys waited on forever. Yes. I'm not sure that you can do that again. You might be able to. And Jalen Smith it's turned out pretty good. But if you're in a situation like that, it becomes a little scary.
Yeah, that's you never know. But also, his tape wasn't that good last year. Also, that's another thing, right? Like he was running with the check engine light on. It looked like there at the end. So that scares you a little bit. Oh man, well, what's going on in here? I guess I shouldn't. The ghost of his knee is talking here. Jess C coming in with a 199 super over on YouTube. Can Teddy Two Gloves get us to the playoffs? Guys, we saw speaking of ghosts, the ghost of Peyton Manning lead the league in interceptions despite not playing like five weeks. 2015 gets to the playoffs and win a Super Bowl. So while it obviously quarterback is the straw that stirs the drink, you can make a somewhat quarterback independent roster in one single season to get to the playoffs. Now, again, defenses are extremely fragile year to year. The great defense will regress to the mean quickly. And if you have a number 1 defense one year and you regress to the number 8 defense the next year, that's like massive. That totally changes what you can do. There's a big difference there. But this roster, with 7 playoff spots this year, and the Broncos having one of the easiest schedules in football, can Teddy Two Gloves get this Bronco team to the playoff? If he can protect the football, get the ball to the playmakers, absolutely. Absolutely. I think he could.
I agree. Again, how far can they go? But yeah, he can be a game manager. He can shepherd the game and take care of the ball without a doubt. So yeah, if the rest of your team is strong enough, then he's a good enough quarterback to get you the playoffs.
Yeah, and we got Michael Brown coming in, and shout out to everybody in here joining us right now in the comments section. I know that, as Scott was saying, we have a bunch of different opinions about what happened. Emotions are high, but we all want the same thing in this comment section. We want the quarterback, or the Broncos in general, to win, get back to it, and losing is no fun for anybody. So let's just hope for the best and understand that we have different opinions on the way to get there, but that doesn't mean anybody's right or wrong. We're going to find out, right? Time is going to show everything. So appreciate everybody coming in here. Michael Brown, I really can't believe I'm saying this, but I think Bridgewater saves the staff. That's my understanding as well. I think this offensive staff saying we need a safer option, a hedge at quarterback, that if Drew Lock doesn't take the steps necessary, then they can go to Teddy. So we'll see what happens there. But Jamal Killen's coming in here. Jamal is a friend of the show, of Mile High Huddle, of all the podcasts, always bringing good content here in the comments section. It's like nobody hasn't seen our quarterback play for the last 5 or 6 years, but draft a cornerback. I get it, Jamal. I get it. And we're going to see, again, talking about what's going to happen. If Surtain is great, that's fine. But if the Broncos still don't have a quarterback and Justin Fields is doing great for Chicago, it's fair to question the process and the decision-making from Peyton there. Maybe it was the epilepsy. Maybe it was some of the, how do I put it? It's not the character concerns, but it's like the high maintenance stuff surrounding Justin Fields, apparently. I mean, who knows? Maybe it was coming from the Bears there, but I don't put any weight in it either. But like, because the eyes don't match where he fell in the draft, he was my number 2 overall player. Like there's got to be something there the teams perceive. Doesn't make it real, but they perceive
the Chicago Bears thought he was worth 2 first-round draft picks.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, we talked about, it's like, you know, oh, he's going to 32. I said, well, we will find out what several general managers thought of him.
Yeah.
On last night, and we did. We found out that Carolina didn't think he was their guy. We found out that the Denver Broncos didn't think he was their guy. We found out the Atlanta Falcons didn't think he was their guy. But we found out that the Chicago Bears thought he was worth 2 first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
That's what we found out. We don't know what anybody else thinks below that.
So we got a good question again coming from RG2729. Nick and Scott, what's your take on Davis Mills? People like to give a hard time about Mac Jones or Trey Lance having a small sample size. Davis Mills, man, he has like maybe 2 good games. Granted, he was a highly rated pocket quarterback. He has a good motion. I think he's an okay athlete, but man, you're talking about a lottery ticket with just going in blind. You know, that's what you're going with Davis Mills.
Mm-hmm. A good mid-round pick that way. You know,
yes,
it's low risk that way. And you know, smart kid, obviously, Greater Atlanta Christian from Norcross out to Stanford. So, you know, he's got the brains. Does he have the desire? You know, I watched him play in high school. I haven't watched him as much at Stanford because, well, nobody watches Stanford anymore. I moved out west and was watching the Pac-12, and Cal and Stanford are about to play, and it's like a top 10 matchup for the first time in years. I'm excited to watch it. There's like 14 people in the stands. I'm like, well, hell, if they don't care about watching it, I'm going to go watch Ole Miss and Vanderbilt where there's 80,000 watching it. Jesus.
I will say, moving to the West Coast this past year.
That one's easy. Michael's question's easy.
I agree with you as well, and some people have been asking about him. I'm okay. Maybe we don't agree. I agree that it's easy, but I'm curious what you have to say. And I'm not considering Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah a coverage linebacker. I think he's more of a box safety, so I'm taking him off my board for this question.
Then I can't answer because I still think he can play. He's the same size as Deion Jones in Atlanta, who was a Pro Bowler.
4'3" though.
You know, 215 pounds, but he's I think JOK came in at 220, 222 at his pro day.
Yes.
So he can be a safety. He's the best coverage guy. If we want to talk about box safeties who could play outside linebacker, it's still Hamza Nasruddin to me. You know, he's the one I want him to come in, and if I'm in a nickel package, I'm going to put Nasruddin on the tight end or on the biggest receiver somewhere in there and be done with it.
Yeah. JOK, maybe there's medical for the reason he's falling. Maybe it's because he is such a tweener. Maybe he's only a 3-4 will or a box safety in a cover 1, cover 3 heavy scheme, but he's still there. I would expect him to go off the board though in the first 10 picks today, just because even if he is a luxury pick, you need athletes on the second level that can cover those slants and whatnot, especially in an RPO centric league that we're starting to become. I mean, these kind of guys are going to be not just chess pieces. They might become needed. So I'm going to take JOK off the board though, because I'm looking for the Broncos specifically where you can have a guy that can play Will or Mike in the 3-4. They have to be able to play in the box, take on bodies, et cetera, et cetera. I think that Cox from LSU is a fluid mover. He's not the most twitched up athlete. You're not going to see him like close space in a hurry from like point A to point B, but he's fluid. He can drop into space. He can, especially if you're looking for a guy that can flex out and cover a running back, if they isolate him in space. I think Cox is a very good pick. And I see a couple people saying, who are the Broncos' best targets for round 3? I think that's where I'm looking linebacker. Baron Browning, kind of an edge.
Jabril Cox is on my YouTube. His Senior Bowl stuff's on my YouTube channel. So go look him up. And I think he's wearing number 7, and he looked like a safety. You know, that single digit number kind of slimmed him down some. I actually had a dad ask me, he had a player. It's like, what do you need to do? I was like, we need to get that like 92 off he's playing linebacker. You need to get that 92. Well, he was number 9 the next season.
Yeah.
So you look slow with that. And then Cruden came in, had a question. So not sure if you address this. I'll be restarting from the beginning, but I think we are still pursuing Rodgers. Peyton was asked, and he completely dodged a question. Love the show. I would keep pursuing Rodgers until I was told no, and then I would ask again just in case. So I would bet a lot of money that there's still conversations going on, at least from the Broncos end. Even if they won't pick up the phone, I'm still calling.
Yeah, absolutely. Broncos were going to do that with Deshaun Watson, and it sounds like they had their eyes on him until things came out and Watson become radioactive. I would be shocked if Watson even plays this season, given everything that's coming out. He might go on that commissioner's exempt list. But June 2nd is the date to watch for Aaron Rodgers. I don't want Broncos fans to get their hopes up too much because things change. And now that the Broncos don't have the 9th overall pick, they don't have as strong of a chip compared to other teams, right? Because their 2022 pick could be much later. So they don't have that, I guess, leg up on other teams that might be interested in Rodgers. But I think Rodgers also has a little bit more power and leverage here than meets the eye too. I mean, he's 37 years old. This is obviously, it seems like it's heading for a divorce. A lot of people are saying, oh, the Packers are saying they're not going to deal Rodgers. We're going to keep Rodgers. Flashback 3 months ago when the same stuff was coming out of Houston, right? There's no way we're going to trade Watson, blah, blah, blah. If that quarterback says he's done, I mean, I don't know, right? Like I just think there's so much smoke and buzz here that it's heading that way. Let's tune back in June 2nd for that, though. But thank you very much for joining us, Crewdam, and we appreciate that. We also got some nice comments coming in here. Jason O'Neill, hope your arm is doing better, Jason. He's rocking. Man, he's probably hurt his arm lifting up massive fish like that. What an absolute unit, Jason. God,
I can't tell. Is that a gar or a pike?
It's
a lot of fish.
I'm zooming in right now. It kind of looks like a gar. I can't tell. Maybe. Man. Either way. I need to get out there. My buddy got me a pack rod for Christmas this past year, and now I'm living in the Pacific Northwest. I want to pack up that rod and hit some alpine lakes and find some trout. That would be a good time. I'm trying to convince the wife that it would be a good idea to get $1,000 pack raft. I don't know how soon I'm going to win that one, but thank you so much.
Mr. Bogans has another question that's going to be very applicable to day 2. So what do you value more out of who's left for the second pick as far as positional value go between tackle and linebacker? Positional value, to me, it's offensive tackle. And I don't think that's a stretch. I think everybody would pretty much agree. If you've got 2 of equal talent, you go with the offensive tackle. They're harder to find than linebackers. But the question then becomes, it's not necessarily position, it's player. Do you have an offensive tackle that you would grade up in the top 40? And for me, yes, they're still out there. And then, how badly do you need to fill the linebacking position? So at the top of the show, I started talking about that, the best drafts are going to be matching best available player and a need. That's how you build a better team. So you don't take the offensive tackle if you've got 2 starters and a backup and you've got a gaping hole in your linebacker core. You go get your linebacker if you've got someone valued at that spot. So it's relative. But if I needed both right now, I'd probably take a tackle. Because I think there's still some really good ones on the board.
Yeah, man, you guys, I would be doing backflips if I don't think he's going to get there. But if Tevin Jenkins fell to pick 40 and the Broncos took him, giddy up, man. I am in. I love Tevin Jenkins. I'm pretty surprised he's still out there. Maybe teams view him more as a guard than tackle. He is more of an aggressor, and I think he's a little bit older for the tackle position too. But that doesn't bother me as much for the tackle, right? Like those guys can play well into their mid to late 30s. So Tevin Jenkins, man, put it in pen. If he's there at 40, that's my guy. I could see the Broncos looking, again, I think the Broncos are really prioritizing defensive backs. If Richie Grant is there at 40, you are talking about a guy that I think they might be hard pass to miss, to not take. I also think Javonte Williams is very much an option for that. Let's talk a little Javonte Williams after we get to Duke Boynton's comment here. Duke, good to see you, man. I hope you're doing well. Green Bay secretly wanted Surtain the second. Denver snags PS2. Rodgers trade still in rumor mode. Could PS2 be a trade prospect with Green Bay and Rodgers possibly coming to Denver? This is interesting, and this would be typically you don't see rookies traded because the massive dead cap hit, but the Broncos haven't signed Surtain to a contract yet. They just have his rights. So do you think there could be anything here? I mean, obviously, the last time I can remember something like this happening was the Phillip Rivers Eli Manning flip.
Well, and one of the comps I heard yesterday, I think it was from Charles Davis, was Rod Wood. I used Rod Woodson. Was Charles Woodson? He played in Green Bay. They know what they're getting there. So again, like he's saying, you just have the rights to it. So if you're trading the rights to it, but do you think that Surtain could be on the move, Nick? It seemed like that was a pick that they were pretty happy with.
It seems like I don't think they would move Surtain. I think if anything, you could see them. The Packers are actually moving to the Matt Quarters defense, so maybe you toss them, even though he'd probably only be equivalent to like a 6th-round pick. But maybe you make room in that cornerback room by moving on Bryce Callahan to them. Maybe somebody like Tim Patrick. If the Packers were like desperate and said like I'm not making this trade unless you give me Jerry Jeudy, I'm not letting Jerry Jeudy stand in the way of me and Aaron Rodgers. But
you say that fast enough, that sounds like jury duty.
Jury duty.
Nobody wants jury duty. Are you kidding me?
And we got Jason O'Neill saying it was a pike. So good catch there, man. Hopefully you didn't have that thing bite your arm off. Man, I need to get out there, man. I'm really jealous. I did not get my fishing in this year. But that's a good question. And so, Scott, we are at 100 an hour and 15 minutes. Let's talk your favorite guys day 2. And then if there are any other supers, we'll get to them. But I think that'd be a good preface before we get on out of here and set up for day 2 of the NFL draft.
My favorite guy on the board. Say it with me, everybody.
Spencer
Brown. Spencer Brown is
yes.
the day 2 guy, 2nd or 3rd. If he goes to the 4th, then I don't know what I'm looking at. Plain and simple. So, how far can you go down on him? Spencer Brown, 6'8.5", 315 pounds, former basketball player, all conference in Iowa. Has just a sub-7 L cone and flexibility that you wouldn't believe. He glides up the field. When he's going to the 2nd level, he glides. He glides. It's just I love him. For pure football players, there might not be a better one on the board than Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Just the kid knows how to play ball. And at this point, you're not necessarily, you're either looking for football players or freaks. The ones that are combination of both are gone. So you're looking for those guys. I see, Pillar says, and he was awesome at Senior Bowl. I'm a big fan of Richie Grant. Love the way he plays the game. Again, now I'm looking at football players and the production that they have. Do they have, we call it the enough factor? Why have they fallen a little bit? Well, JOK is 220 pounds. He's a little smallish. That's why he fell down. But is he big enough? Yeah, he is. He's big enough. So I'm looking at player. He's a player. He's a football player.
100%. And taking Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at pick 9, which some Bronco fans were calling for, too rich for me. Pick 40. Okay. Yep. That's even if he is a little bit of a luxury pick or, doesn't have the cleanest scheme fit in base, you're talking day 2, right? Like you're not spending round 1 picks on luxuries, but day 2, awesome. If Ozija Ojulari's knee checked out, which apparently there was some concerns about degenerative knee, but that could vary how much they care about it team to team. If the Broncos are okay with Oziz Ojulari, I think he'd be a great scheme fit, kind of a guy that you could marinate for a year behind Von Miller and take over as that Sam, where you're going to see a little bit more flexibility in coverage, because Ojulari actually is pretty smooth in space. I actually really liked him in coverage this past year. Comes down, rallies to the football pretty well. I think he'd be pretty good there. Tevin Jenkins, if he's there at 40, I don't think he's going to get to 40. I think a team like the Bengals are going to take him, right? They took Jamar Chase round 1. They need offensive line. Taking Tevin Jenkins for them, that's just good process by them overall. Another edge rusher who tested out of the gym that could be kind of that flexible hybrid off-ball / edge rusher, a guy like Joseph Osai, who is still kind of figuring it out, maybe a little stiff, but jumped out of the gym, good athlete, very long as well. So he's a guy that I think is interesting. Obviously, you mentioned Richie Grant. Javonte Williams, don't sleep on Javonte Williams for the Broncos. I think that ETN, Najee Harris, and Javonte Williams, if I was going to take a linebacker out of that trio, give me whichever one is last on the board. I think they're all the same tier for me. And Javonte Williams runs angry. He broke the most tackles ever recorded per snap in the PFF era. He's super explosive. He has great twitch. And he's one of the youngest backs in this class, limited carries. I mean, that's a great investment at running back. That's the kind of profile you want. Carlos Basham Jr. is another interesting option for the Broncos if they're looking for a power edge. And Javon Holland, another safety safety cornerback hybrid. I would be 0% surprised if the Broncos continued to stack that defensive back room. I don't think they're done. You have a need at safety, and this is a division where you need depth in the secondary, period. I could see them doing that.
And I'm putting in the chat so Nick can drop it for everybody, is because he just took I wanted to name 2 more guys.
Oh, man.
One was an edge for sure, and Carlos Basham was one of them. Nick's got in the link to my YouTube. That's Carlos Basham Jr. at 280 pounds, 6'3", 280. He weighed at 274 at his pro day. He's playing interior. Watch his pass rushing stuff. He's going against interior guys for a lot. And then when he goes to the 7-on-7, he's playing the edge. So he's a hybrid guy that can do a lot of things. And at 280 pounds, he's got enough in his seat in his pants to do both.
Yes,
which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw someone, it may have been a Facebook comment that said we need a blocking tight end. Tim Durr, Facebook comment. So want to make sure we talk about them. Pat Fryermuth out of Penn State.
Yes.
His brother was like a D2 offensive lineman. This kid grew up. If you're going to be a tight end in the Midwest, you got to be able to block. And so Pat Fryermuth is one of those guys. If you're looking for a blocking tight end, Pat Fryermuth could be the guy you want to take.
And again, it's been Lions season, and some things that I was told by some sources didn't turn out the way that it was. It sounds like George Paton is firmly in the driver's seat. He's listening to input from others, but in the end, it's George Paton's decision. And one of my sources is moving on after this year, because that tends to be the case for teams when a new general manager gets in there, right? They keep the front office scouts and personnel that one season because they don't want to start from scratch for the draft process. But then after that first draft is over, they, thank you, and I'm going to get my own guys in here. So unfortunately, that's the way this business goes sometimes. But a name that I was fed by this source specifically, Tommy Tremble out of Notre Dame. Do not sleep on him. I know that Notre Dame has a absolute freak tight end that played ahead of him as the main receiving option. He was like a true freshman this year. He will be a first-round pick at tight end in 2023. I have no doubt about it. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but man, he was phenomenal this year. Very fun to watch. But Tremble, I think he's a little bit of a sleeping giant, right? Like, he's a good athlete. He's a good blocker. I'm not saying he is George Kittle, but he profiles a little bit of George Kittle. Not the biggest guy, but he is a good athlete, blocks his heart out. And if you're looking for a wide tight end, Pat Fryermuth is a guy I would list first, but Tremble is a guy to keep your eyes on, because he was one I was directly fed.
Well, I think we've covered everybody, so we're safe. We can go back and we can pull up the sound clip where we said we really like this guy for day two. No, but again, that's what I said. No matter how disappointed that you may or may not have been for the first round, I started looking at the top of the second round, and there's some impact guys here, and the Broncos are picking in the top 10 again tonight, and they're going to get another good football player that probably fits a need better than what you were hoping for. So, can you get your linebacker here? Yeah. Can you get an interior lineman here? Yeah. Can you get a tight end? Yeah. There's a lot of players here that can make a difference for you. So I'm looking forward to the second and third round tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, we appreciate the heck out of you. We got to get out of here. We got stuff to do. We got stuff to cover leading up to day two, recapping day one. But thank you everybody for joining us today. We appreciate every single one of you guys. That has been Broncos for Breakfast. Want to thank Scott for joining us. And man, this week, 5 days this week, it's been a long one. I'm starting to get a little bit tired, but man, then the draft stuff comes back around, and it's like a coffee enema. Man, I'm just, oh my God, we're going. But thank you guys so much. Follow Scott on YouTube. Really want to plug his channel again, because he does great work over there at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Follow us on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH and at Scout Kennedy. Also, guys, follow this main account, Twitter, at Mile High Huddle. Find us on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Become a supporter. Join our group. I mean, there's many walks of life, many different kind of people in there, a lot of different opinions. Sometimes the decorum can get out of hand, but it's just because it's a bunch of passionate Bronco fans with different opinions, and that's great. We're trying to project the future. Nobody knows. Don't be overconfident in your evaluation, but bring that passion. I absolutely love it. I love it. Disagree with me. Be respectful, but disagree with me. I love it. Subscribe, like, and share. If you're watching us on Facebook today, I see we got 380 people in here. Click those thumbs up or hearts. And Scott, what you got the rest of the day? The draft is day two. I mean, we're in the midst of Chris Mahana Kwanzaa kind of thing going, because it's multiple days.
It's Friday, and I got 2 kids sick in bed with spring head colds. So I might go out and watch some baseball tonight. Before, but draft. It's got to draft. It's going to come up quick here today. So got to get the dog out. The usual. Got to get the dog out, and then it'll be draft day. I might sit down and do a Falcons video on my channel talking about Pitts and the available players on 2. So if y'all wanted to stop in, be great. The interaction makes it more fun for sure. So there's a solid chance I'm going to do a best available players at the top of the round again. It'll be repeating of a lot of what we said today, but I might have it a little bit more tailored towards needs for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, and guys, I just dropped Scott's YouTube page in the comment section if you're joining us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Periscope.
Thank
So
you,
make sure.
Franklin. And thank you, Michael. I know there was a bunch of guys today. So if I didn't say, I wish I could say when those alerts come in, I wish I could say thank you when they happen. So those of y'all that have subscribed, thank you. It's a big help. I got like 10,000 views last night that on Alex Leatherwood from his Senior Bowl highlights. So there's a lot of good stuff to watch on there. Pretty good chance that someone you take is going to be, we're going to have some highlights on there that you take it today, around second and three.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we appreciate you. We will be back in just a few hours. And I'm really excited to see what happens. We got a lot of people saying they subbed a few days ago, and appreciate you guys. Scott really appreciates it. We've been enjoying this. We're not going to be continuing to do the every single morning content. That might be saved for times like this where it's the draft. It's the bread and butter of what we love to talk about.
Yeah, when we get to August, maybe, but we're not going away. We're not going away. You guys have done too good job of keeping us here. We certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. When you guys show us the love, we notice, but more importantly, boss man Chad notices. So we appreciate y'all. You guys have a great day. Enjoy day 2 of the NFL draft. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Love y'all. Go Broncos.